All right. Welcome to the second episode of Ask Good Fucking Questions. And by the way, all you people who were complaining that we didn't get the first episode up quickly enough, basically, you can fuck yourself, okay? Because it takes time to get all the editing of this stuff working. And we're just starting this. We're going to continue it, but it's just starting. Let's not be too, hey, where's the episode, you fat bastard? Let's try to avoid comments like that. But we will be running episodes steadily now that we've got all the production work figured out. But and look, we think these are helpful. We think that there's lots of good questions that we're getting that not necessarily everybody, but everybody at a different time in their life can find interesting. So yeah, let's get going on the show. But we think this is a real good piece that people can learn from.
Good fucking questions. Come on.
Looking for a house with a short-term rental ability for future income for myself. I would live in part of it and rent out the other. And I'm just wondering if you think that I can find that under 600,000 here, or one around here.
Oh, I don't know where here is. I mean, you could find it in Timmins for sure. Okay. Where's here? Where are we talking?
Okay. Right now I'm in Barrie, so I'm looking at probably not in Barrie. Taxes are really high in Barrie, but in and around the area. Like, so either Bracebridge, Gravenhurst, or the other way, Collingwood, Midland, Pennington.
Yeah, stay away from Collingwood. Okay. So, look, it's all just math. It's finding and whatever you do, don't decide you're going to put in the suite yourself. Like, you don't say, oh, look, I've got an unfinished basement. I know what to do. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Okay.
Okay.
Make sure you're buying something that has a ongoing additional suite and that is turnkey, and that you don't have to get involved with, refurbishing it or renovating it or anything like that. I think that in that price range, you're going to find out that it's coming, or it's here already. I mean, that is an area that's hard hit by price decline, and I think you're probably going to find it. Now, you've got to also sort of, where are you living right now? Are you renting somewhere, or where are you living right now?
No, I'm in Barrie in our home. We did have it on the market. It didn't sell. And then now my ex has bought me out. So I'm just there. I'm looking for my own place before I leave. Okay. We're amicable. So, but it's time to go. And I know my budget and I know what I'm looking for. And yeah, I'm just trying to find it. It's just, I did look. I've been looking since November and nothing. Everything's been still crazy priced out there.
Oh, no, I really think in some of the smaller locations, some of the less populated locations, you're going to find something for 600 that's going to work, okay? Or hold out for it, or just, maybe it's hard to hold out. Look, I understand. I mean, if you've been hanging in the home that you want to get out of for a little while, and you say to yourself, I just got to get the hell out of here, and I got to get on Tinder. Come on, we got to get on Tinder. It's got necessary, okay? I mean, we all understand this. I mean, it's a long time, right? You gotta find something. You gotta get something going. But look, I mean, the prices are dropping. I mean, maybe it's not going to be the nicest place. Maybe it's not going to be the perfect place. Just make sure the suite is good, that you won't have to pour money into it, and that rental income could be a good support. So prices are dropping. You can't, and you just have to be diligent and find it at the end of the day. And it might not be perfect. It might be a little dated. It might not. You might be thinking to yourself, well, I'm coming from a place that's nicer, so I feel bad about moving into this place. But it's just the next phase. It's just the next phase, and life will go on, and things will get better.
Okay, just out of curiosity, Ron, why did you say no to Collingwood? Like, it's got the lake, it's got the ski area, like...
If you saw some of the inquiries we're getting from Collingwood with price reductions, but at the end of the day, it has those things you're saying, but it also creates an artificial environment of what people think their house should be worth. Okay, I mean, and I will tell you, in Collingwood, people have drastically overpaid, and sometimes they're just going to try to hold on to that. They have big mortgages. They don't have any choice. They got to try to get big money out of it. If you contrast that with Midland, which is just more of a working class town, I mean, there's got to be some better deals available for sure.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks for your call.
That's great.
Appreciate it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no problem. Thanks a lot, Ron. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good fucking questions. Come on.
I think one of the things that we in human nature love to do is have someone who is a bad guy to blame. And there's no secret with respect to how bad the situation is right now. But I think sometimes there's a different side of the argument and maybe just a different audience that's listening in. And so some families, some people, they purchase property or condos or housing or whatever back in 2017, 16, and they're kind of facing pricing at that level right now. That it's back to that level and they're looking to upgrade, right? And the price and the market situation right now is such that it's becoming prohibitive to them to be able to think about moving forward in terms of their real estate progression. And I'm interested to understand what's some, constructive, pragmatic advice for buyers like that who would on paper have, this perception that they did everything right, but are now being set back potentially an indefinite amount of years because of, not only getting back to what values were perhaps a decade ago, but perhaps sometimes even worse, and like trying to knock this potential misconception that, everybody who's out in the market right now is an institutional investor or some flipper or something like that that's trying to make a quick buck,
Well, we've got to be specific about dates. So if you bought in 2016, you're fine. If you bought a condo in GTA in 2016, you're fine. Those prices were significantly lower than they were sold as pre-sale. It's almost an ideal time. You couldn't possibly have lost money if you bought in 2016. If you bought pre-construction in 2021, you're probably utterly fucked. You've probably already lost $100,000 to $400,000. So that's the main concern is vintage. Yeah, we'll use the wine term. We use a wine term. We call it the vintage of when you bought. 2016, you're fine. You got a good deal. You comparative to still today, even with prices way down, you're safe. You can, if you want to sell, yes, it's less than it was, but you still definitely could sell for more than what you paid, and you will end up with some money to make a down payment on the next project if you want to move up and purchase a resale. You can't buy pre-construction today because there is no pre-construction anymore in terms of condominiums in Ontario. But if you want to buy a resale today and you sold your 2016 purchase, you'd have some money coming out of it, and it's not a bad time to buy. Prices are down. But, obviously, if you could wait, prices will be down a little bit more in 6 months, maybe a bit more. And that would be to somebody's advantage as well.
Yeah, no, that's spot on. I bought a pre-con in 17. It was delayed until 2020. Or excuse me, it was meant for occupancy in 2020 and it was delayed to 2023. And yeah, relative to 17 or what I paid for in that time, I'm certainly not calling from the gripe of, I'm losing money and I'm so fucked and I don't know what to do. But it's about like, I feel like people are so clinging to like, there's some bad guy to blame. And it's like, how do we shift this? Like, maybe it's not possible. But how do people shift this narrative around, it's so sentiment driven versus like, hey, if this gets bad, it's bad for everyone. There isn't like this. How do you break the misconception that there's like, I just feel like people have this idea that there's 1,000,001 buyers waiting for the market to crash. And then all these people are going to sell at a loss and we're all going to be, half the country is going to be laughing. The other half is going to be in trouble. You know what I mean? Like, is it just a waste of an effort to try to break this, like, we're all sentiment driven, or can we be objective a little bit more in terms of like, people who probably bought in 21 looking to take advantage of a system, turn housing into an investment, they're probably screwed. What about everybody else, right? Like, how do we have a more objective?
I got to express this with clarity. They are not probably screwed. They are definitely, certainly, and utterly fucked. Okay, they're not. There's no probability running around there. As far as are there bad guys? Fuck yes, there are bad guys. There are a bunch of pre-construction realtors who are selling these pre-construction units for $1,500, $1,600, $1,700 a square foot. When the building across the street, they're going to build it. Sure, it takes 5 years to build it, but they're selling for $1,400, $1,600 a square foot. When the building across the street, the resale was $800. Like, if you're trying to be a salesperson and say, yeah, you got nothing to worry about in 5 years, everybody will be dying to buy for $1,700 a foot or $1,600 a foot or $1,400 a foot. I'm going to call those people out. They're bad fucking lying motherfuckers. That's who they are. They were liars, okay? And there was not a rational human in Ontario who knew anything about real estate, believed that there would be a 50%, 60%, 70% increase in what people were willing to pay, that there would be a 70% increase in rents to allow you to support that kind of thing. It was about, people were lied to. If somebody said to you, yeah, no problem. It's when you get there in 2025 or in 2026 and this condo's ready, oh my God, they're going to be selling for $3,000 a square foot. Like, there were liars and assholes who were abusing people. Now, you could say, hey, it's buyer beware, caveat emptor. I mean, people should have done a lot more thinking about it. People might have been too greedy. People might have been, doing things entirely wrong. But I will tell you that when somebody is looking across the desk at you and telling you got nothing to worry about at buying for $1,700 a square foot, it's going to it'll be absolutely $1,900 or $2,200 by the time you get there in 5 years. Then I'm going to happily point at those people and say, you were lying motherfuckers when you said that to your. So yes, there are bad people involved in this, 100%.
For sure. And I mean, like, if I wasn't to put myself in, I wasn't using myself as an example, who bought like in 17 at below 1,000 a square foot, and that wasn't the problem I'm dealing with. But housing is housing, and sometimes what you're seeing right now is like all these people who are dumping because they don't have a choice. But there's, on the flip side, back in 2020, 2021, certain families probably also felt like they didn't have a choice to buy. Right, like they needed somewhere to live. Ultimately, that's
I got to stop. I got to stop you there, Ricky. I got to stop you there. There's nobody who's desperately needs a place to live buys a condominium that's not going to be ready for 5 or 6 years. Okay, that is not the truth at all. That is not the case. This is all about rentals, all about speculation, all about investors, and that's what it was all about. Like I said, caveat emptor, if somebody was crazy enough to think that it really believed that lying real estate pre-con salesperson who said it's going to be worth $2,000 or $2,500 or $3,000 square foot, yeah, bad on that liar. But if you're the person who said, yeah, I like the idea of flipping that, I'm going to sell it by assignment, I'm just going to pocket a profit. If you think there was no risk, that was also not a very smart decision. That was not sensible. You did not do enough analysis. You did not have the right study of the market, because obviously it was ridiculous. It would never have worked. So anyway, thank you very much. It's good. It's a very good subject, and it's very timely to talk about it today. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Good fucking questions. Come on.
Would late spring 2026 be a good time for a pensioner, $60K per year indexed, 60 years old, no debts, with $225K down payment to re-enter home ownership in Mississauga and Etobicoke real estate market, or alternatively, continue to rent at $2,300 monthly, a one-bed bath condominium?
Well, that's a great question, because this whole concept of, the prices are falling, house prices are falling in those areas that you described, as they are in almost all of Ontario. And the area you're describing in Mississauga, particularly, the prices are falling fairly steeply. So it does create that interest in, hey, yeah, I could buy a house at a much lower cost than it was in 2021 or 2020. But you also rightly contrast the rental side of things, because rents are falling. If you have the sort of can handle the aggravation of switching units, of moving out and getting and searching for a better price, you will see that rents will continue to drop, and they'll drop fairly aggressively, particularly by spring of this year. So then that's the ultimate question at that point. If you can get your rent down another $200 a month, which I think is probably very possible, then you have to start to question. So why would I purchase as a pensioner? Why would I commit to that? Why would I want to sort of have to be subjected to the possibilities of increasing property tax, of increasing monthly maintenance fees, of the possibility of a special assessment on the condo? Because I'm assuming you would buy a condo, okay? So
that's definitely
So that's a compelling question, because if you take that $225,000 and gets even a 4% rate of return, even after tax, that's going to be more money in your pocket. Also, it's a safety buffer if something does go wrong. And you could have, I think it's possible even to get a 2-year lease in the late spring, early summer for $2,000 or even less on a rental property that you'd probably be happy with. So I realize it's a tough one, because, you think, oh my God, I don't want to move. I don't want to be subject to having to move. But also, you could think about not just renting a condo from an individual owner. You could think of moving into a purpose-built rental building, which there's going to be more and more of them coming up. So there are, and they'll leave you in the same suite forever. You can stay there for as long as you like, because it's not like a condominium where the owner might just decide to sell one day. So you'd have that safety of knowing you're not going to have to go anywhere. So it's a tough one. I think it's real math. I think you have to stop and look at all the angles. But one thing to never forget, if you buy a condominium, you are guaranteed the property tax will never go down. It will always go up, particularly in those areas you're talking about, particularly in Metro GTA, always goes up forever and ever, and amen. They'll go up forever. And condo fees will go up forever. Okay, so that's a key element to buying a condo if you can find a good rental alternative. Keep those things in mind.
That's been my question, especially at home ownership has a lot of responsibilities. When you rent and the appliances die, they get replaced, no cost to yourself. But when that happens in your condominium apartment, well, you're going to be facing those expenses as well.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
And so I was just, I'm really because I did have a home. I had actually a townhouse for many, many years. And then I moved to a condominium. And so I'm just I'm doing renting right now because I just could not bring myself to pay ridiculous prices in 2023.
Well, you made the right choice. You 100% made the right choice. I mean, it's turning out that 22 and 23 were not the right time to buy. But there's a thing about time of life. Okay, it's not like you have to worry about any kids who are going to a good school. You don't have to think about any of those things. You can just think about, do I like the building? I can keep my cash, right? I can keep my cash, which is a comfort. And rents are coming down. So when all those things you just talked about, not having to worry about replacing any maintenance, any bad appliance, any increase in property tax, any increase in monthly maintenance fees, which are just running rampant these days. Yeah, I would say that it's a perfectly valid choice to rent in your situation. Okay.
All right. Well, this is really good to get this kind of feedback because, I'm sort of like, oh, what do I do? What do I do?
Just find the nicest building with the lowest rent and get at least a 2-year lease. That would be a good idea. Okay?
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thanks for calling.
Good fucking questions. Come on.
I currently own a triplex that's split with my brother and my dad, and I've been trying to buy a house for a while now, like 4 or 5 years, and every time I go to a bank to get a mortgage, they say it's the detriment and they can't pre-approve me, or if they do pre-approve me, it's for a really low number. And like TD Bank specifically has told me that it would be a benefit to sell it, that I can get more money, which doesn't make sense to me when you have a cash flowing asset. And I was just wondering how a mortgage broker, I guess, looked at that, like how people have multiple homes.
Well, look, it's like this. And most people do not understand this. And when they get the mortgage, they're not told this. So I'm just going to tell it to you straight. It's a triplex, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the triplex just fucks you, okay? Because it's not about the cash flow. It's about the fact that even though you're partners with it was your brother and your dad, right?
Yes.
Even though you're partners, if you're a bank or any lending institution, you look at it as if you are 100% the owner of the debt. You're only getting like a third of the cash flow, but as far as a bank's concerned, you are 100% on the debt. And they look at what the whole outgoing payment is on the debt. They say, well, it's a big debt because it's triplex. And this will limit what you can do for the rest of your life until something happens with the triplex, okay? Because the most important thing to understand about when you sign on a mortgage with others, there's a concept under the contract law called joint and several. And joint and several means that you are all three of you are on for 100% of the debt. You owe like 300%, okay? And that's immutable. That will never change in the lending industry. That's there for eternity, and it will haunt you for as long as you're involved with triplex.
Okay, yeah. So that makes sense, I guess. And is there any workaround? How do people own? Like, people own multiple triplexes. It's just they're putting down huge down payments, basically, then?
No, I can explain that. So it's actually everyone who is in the investment business. I tell you from 30 years experience and $14 billion worth of mortgages, that before people get into the investment business, they buy their own house first. Okay, they get their own house first, and then everything is based off that calculation. And there's the added benefit that in many cases it's a couple buying the house, so then that's joint income being applied to the debt. So I would tell you, after looking at thousands of these files, that a key aspect is buying your own home first before you start on any kind of development of rental properties or any kind of acquisition of rental properties, because it makes sure you've got your own home, that you've got it secured. And it's unfortunate, but it's just the truth.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Yeah, you think you're getting ahead when you're like 18, getting into the business, and then later on it screws you, I guess.
Well, it screws you. It screws you when you want to, but particularly screws you on things like a triplex or a duplex, because typically it's a decent sized mortgage, but you got great cash flow. You got 3 different units with money coming in, and you probably bought at a decent time, and it's got a lot of positives. Unfortunately, that joint and several issue of the contract means that when the bank looks at the payment on that triplex mortgage, it's 100% on you, and that doesn't really work out.
Gotcha.
Hey,
And I guess there's no workaround. Like, I guess if you're on title, you're on title. There's no beating around the bush, I guess.
There is. I'll tell you what. The only workaround is document fraud, which we are dead set against at Butler Mortgage. Okay. There's no workaround except cheating. We're not that.
Yeah.
We're not into that
fair
at all.
enough.
Okay. There's no workaround on that one. I assure you. Okay. Anyway, that's great. It's a great comment. It's a great, interesting thing, and you bring up the listeners have a chance to figure out all of the pitfalls of co-signing, even though it's a moneymaker. So, thanks for the question.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Good fucking questions. Come on.
Basically, I live in Brampton right now, the northwest side of Brampton. We bought this in 2020. Now, since 2022, obviously the house prices here have corrected a bit. Our concern, though, stems from the schooling here in Brampton. It's pretty okay, but our kids are now growing older, and I can see based on some of the people that have moved to Oakville. I keep hearing Oakville schools are actually far better than the ones in Brampton. So from that standpoint, we were thinking of moving, but given where we are right now, I don't know if it's a sound financial decision. So we were looking for some sort of guidance, Ron, as to how should we be approaching a situation like this.
Well, you raised a great point. In that particular city of Brampton, I think it's way past a correction. I think I think the real estate values in Brampton are in a severe decline. That's reality. What did you pay for your home back in 2020?
1.28.
1.28. It's probably more like $1 million today, or slightly over $1 million. So it's all individual. It depends on your mortgage amount. There's one way of looking at this. The house values are down in Oakville as well. That's true of everybody in Canada when they look at this stuff, particularly Ontario and British Columbia. If you're thinking about an upgrade to a better area, to a better school district, to a nicer home, it cuts both ways. Like, your home is worth less that you're sitting in, but the value of the home you want to go to is also down. So it becomes a careful financial calculation, but it's not a disaster, because if the house that's worth less is down and you're buying a bigger house, if you can put the cash together to make the difference work, you have a small advantage if you're upgrading. So that's the issue. It needs a careful calculus of what your mortgage amount is, what you would pay for real estate commissions, what your final sale price would be. And then you have to, before you do anything, start looking at the kind of product in a better community that you want to consider. And then how much cash can you bring to it? So it's a lot of moving parts, but from a financial perspective, if it's doable, it's not necessarily a disaster, because you are buying at an equally low point for the new house. So that is one consideration.
Okay. And I do see, based on the prices, Ron, Oakville doesn't seem to have corrected as much as Brampton. I don't know if it's just bias based on what I'm looking at in terms of prices that I saw previously versus now. But can you shed some light on that? Has Oakville corrected as much as any other location in GTA?
Well, let's be clear. There are parts of the GTA that during the extreme run-up in prices in 2020 through early 2022, there were locations across the GTA, the prices ran up much faster than other locations. So, and it's not just Oakville, it's a number of other locations throughout the GTA where the increases were not as massive as the changes that were occurring in other locations, particularly in 905. So that's when the correction happens, when the big decline starts, they just don't correct as much because they didn't go up as much. It's that simple. If you looked at the most prestigious areas in downtown Toronto, the luxury areas where the bank CEOs and the bank C-suite people live, and the top lawyers in Canada live, their prices didn't go up that much in 2021, and they haven't come down as much right now. So that's probably the way to look at it. In certain neighborhoods are just more established, theoretically more prestigious, and they retain their values better. Simple as that.
Okay, so that was my question,
Great.
Ron. And
Great talking to you, and good luck in your good luck in your search.
Thank you. Thanks, Ron.
Good fucking questions. Come on.
My question today is in regards to those commercials we see on television regarding the CHIP program for seniors. And I'm just curious, are they legitimate, or do they have some benefit for people over the age of 55?
Yeah, it's a great question. The CHIP program is not just the CHIP program anymore. It's a reverse mortgage. It's offered by multiple lenders. It just used to be just CHIP. They've since evolved into Home Equity Bank. There's a number of other lenders have entered the world of reverse mortgages, which is really simple. It's, hey, you need some money. You need a big cash injection If you're older, you're typically on a pension. Do you need a bunch of cash to tide you over, or do you need a monthly payment that could go on for a long period of time to support you staying in your home? And that's what this is. That's what this is all about. Now, you made a good point. Is it good? Is it what they say it is? Or is there better options? That's the key thing. Is there a better option? Because although these programs, mortgage programs, they do work well. We just closed a file last week. These people are ecstatic. The woman lived in her husband had passed, so one of the pensions went away, and she was living in a home by herself. She's 90. And, with property taxes and looking after the house, she just needed some help. And one of her sons had been helping her. One of her sons had been giving her, over the course of 2 years, had given her nearly $100,000 to keep everything rolling straight. And he said, maybe there's a better option. Turned out this was the right option. Mind you, she's 90. It's a different world when you're 55. But so it turned out great. But the issue is really clear. It's a high interest rate. Okay, so let's say that we have a regular mortgage at 4%. These reverse mortgages are like 50, 60, 75% higher. Okay, so it's a big interest rate. It is compounding. In other words, you're not paying it down because you're making no payments. So it just keeps growing and growing at a pretty good clip. So the right answer is there may be a better option. There may be a better option of a line of credit. That takes a lot of study to see if the pensions would work and if it has long-term sustainability. But yes, there may be better options.
Do people use it in cases where they don't wish their house to foreclose?
Well, basically, sort of. I mean, most of the people that we talk to, they have a very small mortgage or they have no mortgage, but typically what happens is one of the spouses passes. And then there's a missing pension, there's a missing money coming in, and it just makes it very, very hard to keep running the household. Typically, to address your question properly, typically when we run into situations where the people are older, they're of pension age, but they have big mortgages, that's a little bit different. That is, they may actually need to sell the house because the CHIP program or the reverse mortgage program may not be as that much help to them because that's where they ended up in their lives.
So instead of using the CHIP program, maybe better just to sell their place and downsize to something much more convenient and have an extra flow of cash then, right?
That is exactly correct. So it's important to analyze these things for all potentialities. And what you just suggested for people who still have a big mortgage, have a reduced income because they're not working, and have some other debts, the correct approach may be to downsize significantly. Let's face it, you typically don't have any kids at home anymore, so you could probably handle a downsize. And make their budgets work for what income they have coming. So that's a pretty accurate description of what should happen.
Perfect. Thank you very much for answering my question.
It was a great question. Thank you.
Take care.
Good fucking questions. Come on.
An email-only question came in, Ron. So when adding people to mortgage applications to increase max purchase or refi options, what should I look out for, especially since it's so hard to qualify with one income right now?
Well, it's something that we're looking at a lot. It's a good question. It's something that we're thinking about a lot these days. This is the idea that, okay, prices are down. I may have an opportunity to buy, but I need a cosigner. Typically, I need one of my parents to come on to the mortgage with me. And I would tell you that if it's humanly possible to avoid that, avoid it. Right now, we are in the midst of an epidemic of unhappy parents who've co-signed for mortgages in 2021 and 2022. And they are very, very unhappy because they can't get off the mortgage because in many cases values have dropped and it's impossible to refinance. They have found out that the reality is that, it wasn't a sure thing. Real estate wasn't a sure thing when they signed for their kids. They just thought, oh, well, it doesn't matter. The house will keep going up to $300,000 a year. It's a no-brainer. It's going to be fine. And guess what? The price of the house has gone down. The value of the house has gone down. And some parents who signed are getting a little nervous, but they find they can't get off. They cannot get out. Like, because even if their child has had a huge upwards jump in income over 5 years, the house is worth less, and there will be no bank refinance because the bank says, well, wait a minute, your mortgage is $800. The house is only worth $900 now. You bought it for 1.4, but it's only worth $900 now. So we can't help you. We don't do 90% refinances to get you off the title. So great question, but today it's really requires a lot of deep thinking as to whether that's a good idea or not, because we are in the midst of a tidal wave of cosigners who wish they had not cosigned.
Good fucking questions. Come on.
Okay, we have another email-only question that came in. What is your opinion on consolidating debt with a refinance? I know paying off credit card debt over a 25 or 30-year mortgage sounds bad, but I am struggling paycheck to paycheck. What do you think?
Boy, is that that is an internal question, an endless question that is always facing people. And what I would have to say is, the best question is, how the fuck did the debt get so run up? Like, how did that happen? Because if you refinance a house and try to get the last buck out of it to pay down consumer debt, what if you just keep using the consumer debt again? I mean, you now got a credit card that was maxed out, and now you got a $20,000 limit. Like, why did it get maxed out in the first place? Look, I get it. Job losses, those kind of things. But you really have to look at yourself and say, if there wasn't a job loss and there wasn't, any kind of event that created a drastic reduction in income, how did I get so fucked on credit? Like, how did it happen? How did it actually happen? We in our business, we look at these situations crossing our desk all the time. Here's an application for a second mortgage. Here's an application for a line of credit. They want to pay off these debts, or they just want some more cash out, just a cash out line of credit so they can, have some more money available to them. If you never ask the question about why do you always need the fucking money, if there's no budget, if there's no thinking about where the utilization of the credit came from, and I understand sometimes an emergency happens, job loss, whatever it is, I get it, okay? But if it's been the same kind of problem just keeping increasing over years, is it a question of just plain overspending? And if you keep doing refinances to the worst of the worst, you take a car that you've already been driving for 5 years, roll it into a 25 or 30-year mortgage. It's literally fucked up to do that. The car will be long gone and you'll still be paying. Cars don't last for eternity. Yeah, cars last for a while, but accidents happen every day. Somebody can run into you on the highway and that's the end of your car. I mean, they're writing off cars now for bumpers, okay? I know this thing completely. So yes, you have to look at what it is that you're doing to create this impossible situation. And even if you must have a refinance, if you don't make those severe changes in lifestyle, where you live, and how you spend, if you don't do that, you're just treating your house as an ATM machine. It's just a cash cow to you. And hey, here's the thing. With values falling in multiple provinces, the cash cow, that sort of infinite bank machine of your house, is probably just going to tell you you're over your limit and you can't get any more money out. So yeah, it's the behavioral side of this thing, which people hate to hear. Everybody hates to hear that, but the behavioral side is possibly more important than just getting more money. Okay, look, we want to hear your questions. We want you, if you go to the link in the description box, it'll take you to the website where you can ask your questions, or you can just go to the website, Askgoodquestions.ca. I mean, I was surprised that was available. You would have thought that would be gone, right? I mean, that's good. That's a pretty good domain if you want to get some questions going. Askgoodquestions.ca. Give us your question. I mean, look, we're answering the questions. I mean, we, sometimes people talk too much. Yeah, a little bit, And unlike my producer, Sophie, is trying to make sure that I don't cut people off and say stuff like, "Oh, quit talking, shut the fuck up," okay? She's tried to discourage me from doing that. Although as time goes on, I think I might actually get to that point where at some time when I'll say, "Shut the fuck up, Jesus, you're just yammering on about bullshit." But we'll treat you nice, I promise. I know some people are saying, "I'm scared, I don't want to do it." No, he's made me scared. But no, I'll be nice. If you keep it short and sweet, I'll be very, very nice. I won't be the mean motherfucker that I normally am. But ask those questions, keep them coming. We want to hear from you.